everybody, I'm going to be doing a slightly different video today and go over my current compound bow setup. So right now I'm shooting a Hoyt Powermax. I got this bow back in 2019. This was Hoyt's old entry-level hunting compound bow. It's been replaced now with the Hoyt Torrex. They no longer make the Powermax. So when I first got into archery, I got the advice that you should focus on the attachments that you run on the bow rather than the bow that you choose to shoot. As long as you're shooting a bow from a reputable archery company, any bow, whether it's an entry-level bow or a flagship bow, is going to perform well. There's not a huge difference in performance between them. They're all going to shoot well, but the attachments that you run will make a big difference in the performance of your bow. The other thing about investing more in your attachments is that when you're ready to upgrade your bow, you can transfer your attachments over to your new bow. So now I'll go over the accessories I'm running on this bow. Start off the bow sight. I'm using a Fast Eddy XL 5-pin sight. This sight comes with a dovetail, so you can slide the bow sight closer or further away from the riser. That's useful if you want to make adjustments to how your peep lines up the sight housing, or if you want to torque tune your bow. It's also handy if you want to detach your bow sight when you're traveling. On the sight I have a 5-pin configuration with pin colors of green, green, red, green, green. I have my pin set for 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60 yards. My 60-yard pin is my slider pin. So typically both sights come with the color configuration using green, yellow, and red pin colors. I don't want to be thinking about too many different colors when I'm aiming, so I went with just green and red. Green is the easiest color to see in low light, and then the red just acts as a separator between my top two pins and bottom two pins. Yeah, overall, a pretty good bow sight. My only issues with it is that the little purple indicator here on the range dial is kind of big and it hovers above the sight tape. So depending on which angle you're looking at your sight tape, you might get a different reading, so you have to stay consistent there. Now, arrow rest. I've had a few arrow rests over the past few years. I started off with a QAD Hunter, then I went over to a limb-driven Trophy Taker Smackdown Pro, and now I'm currently using a QAD HDX arrow rest. Swapped over that after I brought this bow to West Coast Archery Shop. Had guys there help me retune this bow, and they said the old rest was having some issues. I don't know what was going on with it, but it was messing up the tune, so now I'm shooting the QAD HDX. Now for the stabilizers I'm using on this bow, I am using the B Stinger stabilizers. I have a 10-inch front stabilizer with about 4 ounces of weight up front. I have the B Stinger sidebar mounting bracket here with the 8-inch side stabilizer with 4 ounces on the back. The sidebar stabilizers on this bow because I have this quiver on the side. I need to balance out that weight. Yeah, without it, I get a lot of torque on this bow and it affects where my broadheads fly. The mounting bracket is pretty convenient. It allows you to easily detach the stabilizers and reattach them. For stabilizer systems, I don't think it needs to be anything fancy. The quick detach system was really convenient on this bow. Nowadays, I think there are a lot of options out there. Now for my quiver, I have a Tight Spot 7 arrow quiver on here. I used to have a fuse quiver, but it was a bit heavier than this quiver. So I swapped over to Tight Spot because it's lighter and it sits closer to my bow's riser. And even though it's a 7 arrow quiver, I typically only run it with 5 arrows in there. Yeah, overall the quiver's been pretty good, and my only issues with it is that the arrows aren't seated all the way up in the quiver. Sometimes it might rattle a bit, and if I have small game heads on any of my arrows, they don't sit very well in the small quiver slots up there. The little wrist sling here, and then I have for my grip, I removed the stock Hoyt grip. I currently have custom antler grips from Rattler Grips. I like to feel the riser on the palm of my hand. It's very easy to get a repeatable hand position with that grip. Strings, I have gas bow strings on here. I don't like stock Hoyt strings. They tend to stretch over time, and that always messes up the peep twist and alignment, so I prefer to use aftermarket strings that don't stretch on me. One more small thing that I have on my bowstring here, I have a Bowmar nose button. Yeah, just a small little attachment so that it helps me make sure that whenever I'm a full draw, I have the string set at the same position on my nose every time. This little nose button has these sharp spikes on it, so it's very easy to find a repeatable position. In hot weather, when I'm sweating, I notice it's a bit hard to feel the string on my nose when I'm sweaty, so this little nose button makes it a lot easier to tell where the string's sitting. Now for my arrows. So here are the current arrows I'm using. This is a Black Eagle Rampage arrow shaft. 1/1000 straightness is cut to 29 inches carbon. I have draw length of 29 inches, so this ensures that the broadhead doesn't get drawn back past the shelf of my riser, so I don't have to worry about any clearance issues. I have 185 grains up front. That's a 100 grain field tip, 75 grain insert, and a 10 grain titanium collar. This arrow shaft, currently running AAE Max Stealth vanes on here. 3 fletch with a 2 or 3 degree left helical, and Easton X-Knock. Yeah, one more thing with this current arrow setup I have a 4-inch boning arrow wrap on the back. I mainly run arrow wraps because it's a lot easier to refletch my arrows with them. I can just run this under some warm tap water, peel it off, all the fletchings come off. I don't have any leftover glue residue or fletching stuck to the shaft. It makes it a lot easier to refletch my arrows. Yeah, this white arrow here is the arrow setup I'm currently setting up and still testing. Yeah, the only difference from this new arrow setup that I plan to run this year and my old arrow setup is that I am running 175 grains up front. I'm doing that for convenience because I don't want to always have that 10 grain iron wheel collar on there. They're expensive. Sometimes I lose them in the target if my insert gets pulled out or they get stuck. So using 175 grain total front weight gives me more flexibility. I can run this with a 125 grain field tip and not use the collar if I'm just practicing. And then when I go hunting, I can put on the 25 grain collar with a 100 grain broadhead. I've swapped over to the AAE hybrid vanes instead of the Max Stealth vanes. The Max Stealth vanes were very durable and that was a great thing about them, but they were also kind of annoying to glue on. You have to thoroughly wipe down your arrow shafts, use a primer pen to make sure that those vanes will adhere properly to the arrow shaft, so overall it's just like a slower process to fletch up my arrows. These hybrid vanes, I can just put glue directly on them and put them onto my arrows. This time I'm running these hybrid vanes in a 4 fletch configuration with a 3 degree left helical. Yeah, I want to test these out and they should help steer any fixed blade broadheads that I want to shoot. So far I haven't had any issues with their flight. They impact very similarly to my current arrows with the green vanes out to 60 yards. So overall this bow's been pretty good. I just have 2 issues that kind of annoyed me about this bow over the past few years. The first thing I found annoying with this bow was that broadhead tuning it with the quiver on has been a pain in the butt over the past few years. Part of it was I was new at archery. There's a lot to learn about broadhead tuning. It was a long process to learn how to do things on my own, how to set it up and get it tuned properly. And then the other part was that in order to get this bow to tune with the quiver on, I had to put a lot of twists into the left yoke cable, remove twists from the right yoke cable. So I was shooting this bow with a lot of cam lean in order for it to tune with broadheads with the quiver on, which was a pain in the butt. I had brought this bow over at West Coast Archery Shop 2 months ago and they actually found that some of the bearings and the cams on this bow were bent. So that might have been part of the factor that was affecting my left and rights with broadheads, because now I've been able to retune it with the quiver on and I've only had to put 1 twist into the left yoke, remove 1 from the right yoke, so a lot less than what I was doing before. Other things about this, I don't like plastic cable guards that come with this bow. Over the past few years, the cable guard has always chewed up my cables on this bow. I had swapped over to an aftermarket one for a bit, and now I got a new one from Hoyt on here, hoping it doesn't chew it up as much. But yeah, I would prefer to have the roller guard that higher end bows come with. I think it helps to preserve the cables for a lot longer. Overall, pretty good bow though for like an entry level bow. I'm pretty sure the Hoyt Torrex is probably just as good, or better, should be better. So yeah, that is my current compound bow setup. Still just enjoyed shooting this bow, and if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Yeah, thank you for watching. See you all later.